Some of the biggest names in the NBA are, in John Mayer's words, free falling.
See what you did there.
Yeah, on the player rankings, ESPN's rankings for this year dropped, and James Harden down 32 spots. Chris Paul's down to the 70s, and Ben Simmons was left out of the top 100.
Man, hater. He was killing in the preseason last night.
Oh.
To the clubhouse, everybody. Russell Dorsey. I am Annie Sabo alongside.
Against those dudes that were trying to make their name on a roster.
Against guys like myself.
These two.
Yeah,
children arguing in the backseat of the car. Guys, okay, player rankings, how much do you actually take that into consideration?
I just think it's a good talking point for fans. I really do.
Yeah.
It's so hard to rank certain intangibles, and I think sometimes when you look at, well, is James Harden's 10 assists versus, I think he averaged like 21 or 22. Is that more valuable than what Paul George gave? It's hard to say, right? But it does create buzz. It creates talking points. And I think that's why we have these rankings.
Yeah, I don't think there is a ton of, besides the initial layer of, numbers and things like that, I actually think it's more off feel. Like, do we feel like this guy's a top 10 player anymore?
Yeah.
Do we feel like he's a top 25 player anymore? And as much as it probably doesn't matter, as much as it probably is for fans, dudes care about it.
No, but the players do care.
That's what I was going to say. The players actually pay attention.
Yeah. How dare they say
it's like the Madden rating or like the 2K rating. They get offended by
dudes
that.
Dudes are upset.
Speaking of players that might get offended, James Harden, who was very outspoken about a whole lot of things this offseason, dropped 32 spots. Do you think the drop was justified, guys?
I guess it really depends on what is the ranking criteria, I guess. Like, if you're talking about James Harden, could he go to a bad team and lead the NBA in scoring? Yeah. I think he totally could still do that. It's impressive that he led the NBA in assists last year. But if you're taking into account, well, will he play? We don't know. Like, he might not. He might sit until the All-Star break or until the trade deadline. He's certainly not like at his peak, but he still can take over a game. I think the question is he good for your locker room, and how is he being asked to play?
Yeah, I think when I'm looking at it in terms of the ranking, are there 11 players better than James Harden in the NBA? I think at this point, the answer to that is probably yes.
Yeah.
I think you come up with a solid
42?
list. 42, I doubt it. For a guy who led the NBA in assists last year, actually changed the way he played.
Yeah, fit in.
To fit into that system, to fit into that offense with Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey, and those guys there in Philly. I think it's a pretty big drop up, but I think it's more a drop off because of everything else that surrounds James Harden.
Yeah.
The fact that this is the third team that he's now asked to be traded away from, and the fact that, what is he gonna come into camp into shape? And there's a lot of other things besides the actual basketball that I think played into this one.
Not in John Morant, who dropped to 35th. How much of that drop is due to his 25-game suspension to start the season?
That's
huge. Huge, but I think they're different. Because to me, when Ja comes back from the suspension, he's still a top 10 player in the NBA.
Yeah.
Right? It's not a situation like you have with James Harden where it's a guy over 30 on the wrong side of 30. The numbers have started to, come back to earth a little bit. You're still talking about a guy that when he's healthy, when he is right, he is 25 to 30 points a game, 7 to 10 assists a game, 4 rebounds a game, a high flyer, and a game changer. When we're talking about him in conversations with Nikola Jokic and Luka Doncic and all those guys, that's a top 10 player. Yeah. I think this is more about the suspension and the fact that he won't be there.
This feels like an insurance firm that's having to mitigate risk. Like, we can't rank him too high because he might, get in trouble again. Yeah. But when he comes back, like Russ said, he is one of the elite point guards in the NBA. So Again, what is the criteria for ranking these players? I don't know.
Did I get in trouble?
I know, right? Yeah, he screwed up. Yes, absolutely. But does that mean he's not a top 10 player in the NBA? No, he is still a top 10 player in the NBA. He's just not going to be on the court for the first 25 games of the season. So I would love to know what is the criteria for ranking these guys like this, because it's kind of weird.
Yeah.
And Ja's so much younger, and I feel like he hasn't even reached his potential.
No, he's still
like
on the climb.
Exactly. He hasn't peaked yet, as some of us have done in high school and college.
Yes, we've all peaked here, I think.
Zion Williamson.
He's missed.
I have not.
At baseball?
I'm still reaching.
Oh, yeah, so that was a long time ago.
At playing?
I mean, life? I got a lot of life to live.
You guys are both aging like a fine wine.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
To Zion Williamson, who's missed a whole lot of games, even more than John Morant, guys, what's behind him falling to 57? Is it because...
Once again, it's not his play.
Health.
Because when he plays, dude, for his career, he's averaging 26, 7, and 4. The problem is he played 29 games last year, and he's played 114 over 4. I didn't even play in every game, and in 2 years with the Timberwolves, I played in 99. Yeah. So that to me is the problem. It's his availability. He just doesn't play all that much. But when he's out there, you're telling me that there's 56 players better than him?
See, I look at it differently than I look at with Ja. Because these
no,
guys,
it is different.
Because I think these two guys that were drafted in the same draft, Zion has played 114 games in 4 years, as you mentioned. Ja has played 248 games in 4 years, and there's some suspensions in there as well. And I think for Zion Williamson, I think you have Zion who? Exactly, Brandon Bender. Shout out to you for watching. I think you have a lot of people out there that look at Zion and say, yeah, man, he got all the talent in the world, but if he doesn't play, similar to Ben Simmons, who dropped out of the rankings, like, if you don't play, how can somebody honestly say that you're one of the best players? I don't know. I ain't seen you in 2 years.
No, I'm with you. I still think the rankings need to be specified of how they're doing this.
Yeah.
Because if you're talking about his pure talent, he is a top 15, 20 talent in the NBA. I fully believe that. But if you're talking about, well, what's his production versus how much does he play, he doesn't play that much.
Yeah.
So, again, there's a really interesting nuance to these rankings.
And the crowds Zion Williamson draws.
Yeah, he's
even if you're rooting for the opposing team, it's quite amazing if you've covered the NBA.
No doubt.
All right, last one we're going to get into. Chris Paul dropping all the way to 76. Guys, surprised?
I'm a little bit. I still think he's got something left in the tank as long as he embraces this.
At 38 years young?
Yeah, and you know what? That's a credit to him for taking care of his body, and he still was a good player for the Suns last year. I know defensively this lineup can be not great, but if you're talking about him setting up Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, short rolling Draymond Green, I still think that he can be effective. They've had their issues with Chris Paul in prior seasons with these guys, but if the chemistry can be right and he's okay with maybe playing more with the second unit, the second unit drop-off versus the starters in the NBA, especially at the point guard position, is night and day. So if he's going against guys like that, I still think he can be a very effective player in the NBA.
He can be very effective, but it just feels about the right spot for him.